Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Zoom Into Wine. It's time for the show and your host, Ian Blackburn.
I'm super thrilled. And guys, we're going to have some fun. I recommend you get a little wine in the glass. And just for sanity purposes, I think we should all touch the screen, get some good mojo going on, and cheers, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. It's a special one. Wow. Bryce is here. Bryce works for Backsberg. And Bryce, were you born in South Africa?
Yeah, born and raised in South Africa. I was there for 30 years, I guess. I moved over here last year to marry my wife. Actually, wait, no, it's longer than that now. 2019, I moved over here. Got married in Portland, Oregon.
It's okay, you can skip 2020. We're going to get that one anyway.
It was crazy. I mean, the irony of the whole thing is weird. It was such a nightmare to get our visa paperwork and everything in order before we came over. And then we arrived here and I got set into the position here with Backsberg in the US. And then, of course, COVID arrived. So it was just this like continuous roll of good times. Wow. So it's been an interesting one, but I'm really, really stoked to be here. And it's great to see so many awesome people from all over. I'm really excited for tonight. Nick, how you doing?
I'm good, Bryce. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's coming up on a year since I last saw you.
Yeah, we're looking forward to hopefully this year having you down here again.
I look forward to it.
Well, cool. Well, we got some great people on the Zoom tonight. We're going to taste some wonderful wines, and let's get started with this rosé. And in fact, we're just going to kind of go right into the video and say hi to Simon, and we'll get right into the rosé as well. But enjoy a big fat glass of this rosé while we get settled in here, and welcome Simon Blanc, winemaker owner of Backsberg. From South Africa, guys, how you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing, Ian?
I'm doing all right, man. All things considered, I'm doing all right. It's a beautiful LA day, and we're excited to be talking about South African wine this morning, about a particular brand called Backsberg. We've got the owner, winemaker, Simon Blanc on the Zoom, as well as Bryce. Is it Gillespie?
That's it, it's Gillespie, yeah. So I'm up here in Portland, Oregon. I worked at Backsberg Winery for about 2.5 years before I shipped over here. Married my wife in Portland. Unlike LA, it's not a beautiful day out here. It's miserable and rainy. It's classic Portland.
That's why you live in Portland. Yeah, that's Oregon, right? And, you know, we haven't had a day of rain, Bryce. Well, we had one day of rain in like last year. So, you know, why don't you ship some water down to California, because we're going to need it big time.
No, for sure. I'll trade you water for that smoke that you guys sent up earlier in the year.
They were smoke and water. It's a good combination. Sounds like a cocktail. Guys, good morning. I just want to thank you for joining us. We've been very fortunate to have your time, and we've got a beautiful audience tonight talking about wines of South Africa, and in particular your wines. And Simon, I know you've been to LA, and we've done events with you here. And where are you today?
So right now I'm sitting on my porch at my house at the winery. So yeah, it's a beautiful afternoon here. It's travels and being in LA right now feels like a distant memory, to be honest.
What part of South Africa are you in?
So we're in the Paarl region, which is basically northeast of Cape Town. So we're about 40 minutes drive from Cape Town. We're situated on the slopes of the Simonsberg mountain, which essentially separates kind of the two main wine towns of Stellenbosch and Paarl.
And when did you get started at Backsberg, and tell us the story of the brand?
Yeah, so I mean, I was kind of born into it, if you will, but it was really my great-grandfather who he fled Lithuania around 1902 and arrived in the Cape on a ship, on a boat from Europe. My family's Jewish, and he was fleeing some of the stuff going on in Eastern Europe, and super humble beginnings, ended up owning a butchery in the town close by called Paul. The town Paul close by. And the story goes that, someone came into the butchery and said, hey, do you want to buy a piece of dirt on the Simonsberg, and bought the property that we're on today, and started from scratch. No history of winemaking or viticulture. And we've essentially built the business up over the course of 100 years or so. So I'm the fourth generation running the wine business, and no pressure, as my dad likes to say.
Wow. And now a lot of geological features in your Parle area. You said Simonstein. Are you named after that?
So, yes, Simon van der Stel was a big figure in the history of the area. He was the founder of Stellenbosch. But there's a debate on who was named first, me or the mountain, but I think who wins that.
Very good. And was the family name Backsberg?
So the family last name is Back, B-A-C-K. We think it probably got a little bit anglicized along the way, so it was probably either Bach or Bach, B-A-K. So, now it's slightly easier, B-A-C-K.
Got it. All right. I don't know where you guys went. I'm looking for you guys.
Great escape.
There you go. I'm trying to change the view. I guess it's the speaker view. So I'm going to do gallery now. Okay, that's better. All right. Well, there's a lot of stories that I read about what's happened in South Africa with the pandemic. What is your hot take on what's happening? What's really happening?
It's been a rough ride. We've gone back to quite a serious lockdown. South Africa has experienced a really bad kind of so-called second wave. So the number of cases is really high, and alcohol hasn't been the friend of the government. So we are now in our third alcohol ban. So essentially, we're not allowed to sell any wine. Restaurants aren't allowed to sell any wine. All sales in retail and independent wine shops are essentially banned for the moment. So quite a crazy situation. I mean, in the history of Backsberg, we've been through world wars, we've been through apartheid, we've been through all sorts of things. There's never been a full-on ban of trade. So yeah, it's been really tough for the South African wine industry, and we just hope it doesn't, persist for too much longer. Otherwise, it's a real threat to the livelihoods of winemakers and wineries.
Is there any government assistance to help you along this path, or is it just they're just leaving you out there to dry?
I don't want to sell them down the river completely, but I mean, there was some support in terms of covering wages for a period of time, but that support is essentially kind of run out. So at the moment, we kind of rowing our own boat a little bit.
Wow. And international sales is really all you can lean into.
So I mean, in the first lockdown, for a period of time, even crazily enough, exports were banned as well, which seemed just madness. That fortunately got lifted, and we can still do exports, but not having a domestic market is a big blow.
That is crazy stuff, man.
I don't want to say we're the only country that's had this ban, but one of very few. Off the top of my head, I don't know, Bryce, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I can't actually think of other countries that have placed a full-on ban on alcohol.
I can't think of any major international countries that have done it. I mean, like if you think of banning booze in the UK, like there'd be full-scale riots in London. I mean,
yeah, sure. I mean, it's about the only thing that's keeping us going.
Yeah.
Well, So when they lift the ban, is there this huge surge then because of pent up demand and people need to restock?
Yeah. No, so I mean, after the first kind of ban, there was a massive spike in sales. I mean, we do a fair amount of online, sales, but it's not a huge part of our business. But there were horror stories of courier companies taking like several weeks to deliver wine because there was just so much sort of pent up demand. And if you ask some of the sales staff in my office, they were the recipient of quite a few rude phone calls from customers who just losing it, not getting their wine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, this kind of goes back to the period in America's history where we had prohibition.
Yeah.
In Napa Valley, Robert Bialy and his family, they had a little corner store, and people would call and order a black chicken. Deliver a black chicken to your house. So maybe you guys are going to have to do a Blacksberg.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to some restaurants and you see the tea that is being served, it looks very, very familiar, like just the red and white wine in teacups. So unfortunately, that's kind of what this thing forces, is that it forces people to engage in illegal activity and do some bootlegging. I mean, it feels very kind of reminiscent of the sort of prohibition in the US.
Yeah, wow, this is wild. Well, thank you for making time for us. And I will say that we've had pretty strong support for South African wine. But Simon, realistically, the dollar versus, is it the rand?
Yeah, it's the South African rand. Yeah.
The rand is how is that relationship right now?
Yeah, so right now it's around 15 rand to the dollar. When the markets sort of went through a bit of turmoil, earlier this year or early last year, it really went downhill. It was almost touching 20 rand to the dollar, but fortunately it's come back now and is around 15. But yeah, I wouldn't say the rand is the strongest currency on the planet.
Well, that's promising. I mean, I don't know if the rand got stronger or the dollar got weaker.
I think a little bit of both.
Yeah. Well, we'll keep waving the flag, and hopefully we all get through this. And are you guys distributing antivirus right now? Are you guys being able to put drugs in people's arms, or how's that been?
Yeah, so I mean, hopefully we'll get vaccines in the next couple of months, but we'll have to see it. We don't seem to be first or out of the blocks as far as vaccines go, and but hopefully our government will come to the party.
Well, we won't be a very good example of how easy it is to distribute. It's off to a very slow start here. It's very frustrating, but we all need to stick together here. So we'll have to drink our sorrows away. Simon?
Yeah, exactly. Please drink South African wine. We need it.
All right. So tonight we gave everybody 3 bottles of your wine. We've got the Rosé from Pinotage, the Shannon Blanc, and the Pinotage. So, and I do, by the way, I do carry your Cape Classique, which also is kosher, and I'm marketed on our website as one of a list of kosher wines. We have a large kosher population here in Los Angeles. I'm like struggling. Do I market it as a kosher sparkling, or do I just market it as a Cape Classique, because it is a great sparkling wine? Yeah. And just to spend a second on it, are you a rabbi? Are you able to make that?
Definitely not. So yeah, I'm not the greatest example of Judaism. So to be totally honest, so yeah, we have guys that come to the winery, mashgiachs, who are observant Jews who handle the whole winemaking process on our behalf, and Alicia and myself, sort of point in the direction of what needs to be done. I don't unfortunately make the bar as far as religiousness when it comes to kosher wines. But yeah, I mean, in terms of how to market it, I mean, I think you could go both ways. I mean, we want the bubbly to be able to kind of stand on its own 2 feet and just be a great sparkling wine, and the fact that it's kosher, is a great sort of add-on.
Well, for those that don't know, kosher wine laws are pretty extreme in that only rabbinical staff can touch the wine at all, and gentiles are not allowed to even get close to the juice. In fact, is it behind like a cage or something like that? Are they separated?
Yeah, so we kind of try cordon off the area that we're doing the winemaking so that there's no slip-ups in terms of handling the wine by accident, which has happened in the past. So yeah, we're quite careful about it in the cellar.
Very good. Well, it's a beautiful sparkling wine and a good value. And so if you are looking for that, then know that we carry it. But let's talk about the wines that we do have in everyone's hands tonight. 3 awesome examples. I will say the rosé thing this year was insane. We saw the world, making rosé, probably more rosé than the world could actually drink. And it's been pretty brutal on rosé pricing.
Yeah.
Not sure if anybody's making money selling rosé right now, but it is an incredible value for the consumer to be able to buy a bottle of rosé for the prices that we're able to offer it at. I tasted, and there were great rosés from all over the place, and I quite honestly like to find kind of the more bizarre, the better. I had great success with Cananao rosé from Sardinia, and a number of other unique examples. But I probably would put your rosé in my top 3, buddy. From last year, I really thought that the Pinotage is a fantastic. It's gentle. It's got a little bit more oomph than a Pinot Noir rosé. It's got a little less tannic kind of extraction than some other grape varieties. Just really kind of like the Goldilocks of rosés, and I had really good success with it. So we just got the new vintage, and everyone's tasting it now. What do you do to make your rosé, and tell us what the secret is?
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, maybe about 10 years ago, we started doing a dry rosé, and South Africa has got a bit of a history of sweet wines and sweet rosé, and try as we might, we were never able to really get traction with the dry rosé. And then fast forward a number of years, dry rosé became a huge thing, and we felt like we'd sort of missed the boat on the second round, and we wanted to do a dry rosé, and we did a big blind tasting of a whole bunch of different rosés, and the Pinotage rosés in the lineup just stood out, as really something special. And the story that Bryce sometimes likes to tell is that the winemaker kind of leaves a job card on the in the lab and says, basically leave on the skins off over lunch, and then we'll press it after lunch. So just very, very light skin contact. And yeah, I think you summed it up really well, is that Pinotage gives the wine a little bit of body, so it's not sort of insipid or almost watery. It's got a bit of structure, got a bit of oomph, as you called it. And yeah, I think but it still delivers on all the things that you want in a rosé. It's got that freshness, it's got that crispness, and something really a little bit different and delicious.
And it's 100% stainless steel. And do you inhibit malolactic on that, or is it encouraged? Or
yeah, I mean, we let the malolactic go. Yeah.
Okay. And is it pure Pinotage? You use anything to?
100% Pinotage.
Okay. And is it Saugny, or are you making a white and a red? What do you?
No, So I mean, it's just like a small amount of like, you know, skin contact gives the color, and that's the way we do it.
Cool. Well, we'll let everybody taste the rosé, and then we'll come right back and we'll talk about the Shannon and then the Pinotage. Cool. Hope everyone's enjoying the rosé. It's a great rosé, and it's performed really well for us and the clients who have been able to pick it up. Jim, I loved your tasting note, orange peel. I think that's a real fantastic part of the nose. And how many of you guys are able to smell that wine and pick up on that orange peel? It's cool, right? Anyone have any questions for Bryce or for Nick? Nick is the importer, and Bryce works for the winery. So we've got the full all hands on deck approach tonight. We'd love to ask any questions that you guys might have. It's the floor is yours, and I will take everyone off of mute. Ask all to unmute. So you guys are welcome to ask away. May just want to take turns. David K., do you have a question, or Jim Fox?
I have a question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Jim.
David, I put it in my notes on the chat. Just a little more powerful than I'm used to with a rosé. I mean, the flavors are there.
Yeah, it's just got like another gear. It's like rosé plus.
Rosé Plus is cool. I like that. It's interesting. So Simon mentioned there in the chat that about 10 years ago, Backsberg was doing a dry rosé, but it never really took off. So then we just continued doing our sweet rosé, which is a hit in South Africa. And just after I started at Backsberg, 2017, I think, my colleague at the time, she had been kind of pressing the team saying, guys, we need a dry rosé. We need a dry rosé. Let's do it. So they said, okay, fine, let's sit down and we'll do a blind tasting of a couple of big names out of South Africa and their rosés, and we'll see what comes to the fore. And time again, tasting everyone's rosés, it was rosé of Pinotage that was standing out amongst everyone. Everyone else was kind of either falling flat or too extracted or just like maybe too sweet, but this Pinotage rosé just kept coming out. So we said, okay, cool, we've got a beautiful plot of vines on the farm here. Let's give it a go and see what happens. So 2017, first vintage, 250 cases, gone in 3 months. 2018, 500 cases, gone in 2.5 months. 2019, we upped it to 1,000, and that was gone like within the year. And then now fresh, I think this 2020 arrived last month, I think, stateside, brand new, and it's great.
Awesome.
I have a question, if I may.
Yeah, great.
This is the first 2020 vintage I think I've had.
All right, that's a good observation.
Tell us about that. How did that all come down, and do you know?
So I'll tell you, one of the things I try and work hardest at is vintage management, because as you know, Southern Hemisphere, the harvest takes place kind of end of January through to about mid-April, end of April, depending where you're located. And the idea of summer in the Northern Hemisphere being in June, July, August, it's prime for the fresh kind of rosés, light white wines. So it's like, can we manage our vintages, our inventory to the point where we can stock out as summer arrives, so that we can place an order with the winery so that the container of the latest vintage hits as summer comes. And I haven't got it yet, but we're inching closer and closer and closer and closer. And this 2020 is fantastic because we managed to actually get it in the year now of the release. So we're getting there. And I guess it's the same with the kind of Northern Hemisphere stuff, the French rosé, where the guys try and get it in as early as possible too. But the vintage as a whole, 2020, was quite a relief for South African winemakers in general, for Backsberg, of course, but for the country as a whole. It's the first sort of return to normalcy in vintages, because the last sort of 3 or 4 years before that, the country was under a massive, massive drought. So, I mean, if anyone was keeping tabs with media, like Cape Town had very, very stringent water restrictions where, I mean, you could only shower for 30 seconds. They almost got to a point where they called it day zero, where there would be no water available for anyone. And you would have to go and line up on the streets to a designated water allocation point where you could get your amount that you could take home. I think we were something like 19 days away from that, had people not like kind of curtailed their water usage. So serious decrease in yields in what people were able to farm and get off their vines. And 2020, like I said, is the first year where people have actually seen some kind of normal yield come off the vineyards, some kind of return to normalcy. So albeit a crazy year in terms of COVID and coronavirus, winemaking, vintage-wise, beautiful year.
You got your harvest in before before it hit us. January is.
Well, so here's the crazy piece of it is because COVID kind of broke out, let's call it early March, like second week of March was when the world started to sort of take notice of it. That was smack bang in the middle of harvest in South Africa for a lot of winemakers. And South Africa now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, they're totally bungling it. And I mean, Simon's already mentioned that there's an alcohol ban in South Africa at the moment. Their handling of the whole situation has been rancid, to say the least. But at the beginning, they were praised by worldwide media. I mean, I remember listening to an NPR recording where they were saying that the president of South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, is the only world leader who stepped up to the plate and shut everything down right at the get-go, lock it down. No one comes in, no one goes out, like we're going to keep it. And it was great. The case count, the infection count at the beginning was super low. But controversially, he denied all local alcohol sales, all export alcohol sales, and all non-essential work was banned. And at the beginning, winery work, vineyard work, cellar work was classified as non-essential. So now you've got fruit that's sitting at 24 belling on the vines, about to like go over the tipping point. You've got wines fermenting in your tanks. You got wines in barrel that are going through their mallow. Like no one knew what they were going to do. And I think it was a day and a half where no one could have workers in their cellar and people were stressing out. But luckily our sort of local industry body kind of gathered together and lobbied really hard to get some kind of clarification on what essential work counted as, and the guys could get back in pretty quickly. Backsberg was quite lucky in the sense that we had all our wines in tank, and I think 95% through fermentation was finished when that happened. So we weren't as worried as a lot of guys. But I mean, just think about your fact that you've had Cab Sav that you've been growing for a whole year, sitting at 24 barley, and you need to go pick that stuff now because it's not going to wait for you. And they got told, no, you can't have anyone. It was scary.
Amazing. Well, the wine, as I said, was a big success for us this summer. And we just got the 2020 in, and this is my first 2020 also, Lauren. So the trick is to get the 2021 before harvest. No, just kidding.
Ian, hopefully this summer we'll have the 2021 available. It's always fun to bring that wine out the same year because people are like, this shouldn't be out yet. This shouldn't be available yet.
Is that possible? Yeah.
I think we should relabel this one 2021 just to get 2020. Nobody's going to buy it.
2020 plus.
Ian, we bought a case of the 2018 from you last summer.
Yes.
And we served it to a friend who immediately ordered a case from you. And we all loved it, but it's long gone.
Yeah.
So I'm very glad to see the 2020 is here.
Yeah, me too. And they age. You know, this 2020 is as fun and fresh and zippy as it is. It actually gets some really nice richness in the mouth that I think is complementary after that first year. So that kind of that fresh, almost effervescence simmers down. It becomes a little bit more richer, more vinous in the mouth, a little more thick and viscous.
You mean we can't drink it right away?
Well, you know, Susan, I we'll just have to keep you stocked. That's all. All right, we're going to move into our Shannon Blanc, and please pour yourself a glass. And we've got a short bit with the winemaker and Mr. Back. Cool. See how we're doing on our schedule here. He'll answer some questions with us when we taste. But
yeah, for sure. I actually received a bottle of the 2020 vintage Pinotage Rosé when it landed stateside last month. And I promised myself I was going to keep it for this event, but that promise lasted all of an afternoon.
Skip forward just a little bit more. You know, it's probably a good argument that it's the official white wine of South Africa. Where does the name Steen come from?
Good question. Bryce, do you know where Steen comes from? No one's ever asked me that.
I don't know. I actually don't know the origins of it. Like, I think that's what it was called 1,000 years ago.
It's just got to be the Afrikaans / Northern European name for a white wine or something, right?
You've given us some homework to do, Ian.
Okay. Well, it is often called Steen as a white Shannon Blanc from South Africa. And you guys don't reference that really on the label, but some producers do.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a bit of a relic, if you will. Like, I mean, in the sort of early 90s and whatnot, there was some references to Steen, but I would say, and call it the more modern South African wines, there's very little reference to it. A few guys have gone back to it as almost nostalgic kind of reference, but by and large, most Shannons would be labeled as such, as Shannon Blanc.
You guys grow this fruit yourself, or are you working with growers?
So on the Shannon, we work with a grower that supplies the fruit. Okay.
And what's the secret to good Shannon Blanc? What needs to happen in the vineyard?
Yeah, I mean, Shannon is just such a fantastic grape. It's so versatile. I think one of the big things that you've got to be a little bit careful with is just not overcropping it. Once the guys start trying to push for volumes, it loses concentration and it gets a little bit watery. So for me, you really want to manage the yield on the first thing, and then picking it at the right point. Sometimes if you pick the Shannons a fraction overripe, they can get a little bit flabby and lose acidity. So the picking date is really critical. And then, just not kind of overworking it in the cellar. So all our Shannon is made in stainless steel. I mean, there's some fantastic examples of, barrel fermented or barrel aged Shannon Blancs, but we just want to focus on that sort of purity of the fruit and again, that freshness and acidity.
Great. And I've had, I think if there's one grape varietal, we've talked about the success of rosé, but if I were to point to one grape varietal that has really had a coming out during the pandemic in the white wine category, it would be Shannon Blanc. I have carried a pretty broad selection, French, Californian, South African, and the categories had a lot of interest. I think people are drinking a little differently, and potentially a little bit of day drinking. And
Shannon's a great day drinking option for sure.
What is the official food of Shannon Blanc in South Africa?
Wow, good question.
What do you have with it?
I mean, for our Shannon Blanc, because it's call it a slightly light to medium bodied, I would steer more to the kind of salads and seafood options. Great with some prawns or a nice piece of fish. I mean that's a great option.
Yeah, I like it with a salad that has about very little green in it, but a lot of cheese and different types of things inside the salad. And and Shannon Blanc is just a wonderful cocktailing wine as well. I mean, you can just sip it all day long.
Yeah.
And alcohol here, what is our approximate alcohol on this?
Yeah, it's about 13.
13. And so it's just kind of a nice, the nose is fairly restrained, but has a wonderful richness to it. And there's a lot of texture in the mouth, and again, for price value, much like the rosé, Shannon Blanc over delivers and really knocks people back with how good the wine is for the dollar. And that's, I think, really the secret of its success is that it's just really over delivering, especially with the currency exchange and everything like that. It's really hard to find the type of value that we can find in South African wine.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, to touch on that, sorry, Simon, to jump in there. Lauren Bezeo, the South African reviewer for Wine Enthusiast magazine, she's a big supporter of the category, and she did a podcast last year or 2 years ago where they were kind of discussing French Chenin Blanc versus South African Chenin Blanc, and she said, well, obviously South Africa's got more plantings now, and in her mind, South Africa's doing better quality Chenin Blanc as a whole. And then, like you touched on, the value points of Chenin Blanc out of South Africa is phenomenal. And I mean, I hate to talk about this because it's a super, super tough one for our friends up north, but the US, as you know, Ian, just nailed France with increased tariffs as of last week. So now every wine coming out of France is taxed 25%. So you've got to look south now. I mean, the stuff coming out of South Africa is your number one go-to wine for value.
The price increases have been announced. They're coming in hard and fast now. And people are not going to like the new price structures. I mean, it's going to be good for some retailers for a couple of months because they'll have old pricing. But as soon as they go back to reorder anything, the price has gone up, 20 or plus more percent. And that's going to happen. And so I was advising people months ago,
stock up.
Yeah, stock up, because I really think that the amount of wine that people are importing is also going to be softer. So they're not going to have that downward pressure on pricing, because what we were able to do, and that's the opportunity that this market presented, was to be able to help some importers remove inventory issues, and the pricing was pretty advantageous. I don't see that happening in 2021. I think the importers are going to be very careful about how much wine they bring in, and the prices are going to be what they are, and they're going to have to adjust. And so South Africa's in a good position in that regard. And I think that we could look forward and see that the only challenge will be that they predict the dollar is going to get another 15 to 20% weaker. So that's the negative nanny on the dollar for the future. But we're all printing money. I think every country's probably printing money. Who could print it the fastest is probably this direction. So it's pretty crazy. But I have a number of different Shannons on the list, and your wine for the dollar is an extreme value proposition on our list, and I thank you for making it so delicious. And I like the packaging. I like everything about it. It's just a really good wine to offer, and we're having very good success with it. So thank you, Simon.
Great.
All right, we're going to go back into a PowerPoint that I made here and hear from you guys about the wine. So far, everybody doing okay with the wine? You got any questions?
Yeah, I had a question for Bryce as well. Shannon Blanc is becoming one of my favorite white wines because you can make it sweet, sparkling, and dry, demi-sec, all of it, and it can age. We opened up one of my favorite producers, vineyards, Coulis de Saran, the famous Loire Valley, Shannon Blanc, and we had a 2001 the other night, and the color of it, I have an 87 that I'm anxious to see, but I'm wondering about older vintages of Shannon in South Africa and how they compare to to those wines in France. So do you have any experience with older Shannons from South Africa, and what is that? What are they like?
So I'm not going to presume to say that I have a crazy amount of experience with older Shannon out of South Africa. My first sort of theory on that is, like, as you mentioned, it's such a versatile grape. So many different styles that it can be done in. Now, for the most part, majority-wise, most of the Shannon in South Africa is going to be used for a lighter, fresher, fruitier, more kind of immediate enjoyment. That said, there are a number of producers who will either ferment it in barrel and then bottle age, or they'll ferment in barrel and then barrel age, or they will ferment in concrete and then barrel age. And now when you're putting barrel age into it, you're just putting a little bit more tannin into the wine and you're giving it a little bit more structure where it can sit. And I've had the fortune of having some of those guys when they're 10, 12, 13 years old. Beautiful, because you've still got that lovely kind of fresh, tropical, deep fruit that comes through, that flavor, but it's this really lush, rounded mouthfeel. The guys that are playing with concrete eggs, where you're getting that beautiful kind of note of minerality that's coming through. I saw in the chat that the guys were talking about, Jim, I think, mentioned that it was like a Chablis, and someone else said you're getting a note of salinity on it. It's a characteristic that can be brought out of the grape when it's grown in slightly cooler areas. And when you match that with some careful technique in the cellar, you get these really, really nice wines. With reference to the French stuff, my understanding of a lot of the Chenin that comes out of Loire is Vouvray. So you've got that sugar, the sweetness element to it, which is obviously going to hold it for a lot longer than anything that doesn't have the higher RS in it. But I would definitely say ours, Backsberg's wine, more kind of immediate enjoyment. But if you're looking for, or just look at the tasting notes of Chenins that you're interested in, and if you see that they're aged in barrel, chances are they'll sit for a decent amount of time. There's a couple of top name producers, like a quick Google search will tell you straight away who they are, and you'll be guaranteed to get some great stuff from them.
Yeah, I just love the freshness, and it's that, and the thing about the Loire Valley, they tend to, especially, Joly tends to, the wine's like 14%, the alcohol's high. And the one thing I love about South African Chenin is its freshness and the lift, and it's like only 13%. And you can drink more of it, which is always a plus.
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
that's great stuff. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Very cool. Well, let me show you a little bit of a PowerPoint. And David, I sent a link to a wine that I love on our website with some 50-year-old vines that are barrel fermented. Renke Bryce, it's a brand that I sent it to that we have in stock. So we
Ranky, you mean is that Reinica?
Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful wines. Biodynamic producer, great guy, great wines.
Awesome.
Good recommendation.
Cool. I love the wine. Didn't know how to pronounce it. Let's talk about Backsberg. And right on the front of your bottle and everything that we're drinking tonight is a pretty important factoid. And look at that beautiful shot, that amphitheater you guys have created there. Sustainably farmed. You guys were you were like the first one in South Africa, right? Get that designation?
So sustainably farmed is kind of our own designation, but on the back label, you'll see on the wines, it says certified carbon neutral. We were the first South African winery to receive that. And at the time, we were the third winery in the world to get that.
Oh, wow. That's an amazing feat. And a lot of the industries have that as a goal, but the fact that you've already attained that is pretty significant. So look at the map here. I would highly recommend you making a trip to South Africa at some point. It's a beautiful place to visit. And there's, when you get to the very tip down here, you probably fly into Cape Town. Obviously a major city, a major port, and very hospitable. But once you leave Cape Town, you're talking about miles and miles and miles of vineyards and more vine than people. It's a very much a growing nation, and so, or grower nation. So really amazing to explore. The one piece of advice I will give you: GPS is wonderful, but maybe hiring a driver is an even better idea, because not a lot of great street road signs, and unless you speak Afrikaans with 26 letter, names, Hoekenspelofkoef, turn right and then turn left at the, it can be a little challenging.
Twee buffels doodgeskiet met één klipfontein.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
But yeah, that's a pro level tip, Ian. Not only do you find your way around easily enough, you can drink more wine while you're there too.
Heck to the yes. And I have a friend who's actually He takes people camping and exploring and rock climbing and all kinds of stuff. So if you need a tour guide, his name is Chris Troop, and he's a retired like military guy, so you feel safe with him. And he knows every little nook and cranny. He's a tour guide, and he literally, I went down there in slow season and he drove me, which was incredible. We became great friends too. So here we go. Simon, and is that Simon's father?
That's Michael Back, Simon's dad. So Michael was the real kind of pioneer behind Backsberg's sustainability initiatives. He's really quite a maverick in the sustainability sphere in South Africa, because he does a lot of things that people kind of look down their noses at and they think, well, that's weird, you shouldn't do that, and we don't understand. And then 10, 15 years later, everyone's turning around and saying, wow, Michael, you were right. We should have done that same time as you did. And he often refers to the Backsberg estate as the Principality of Backsberg, where he is the king and he does what he wants and he figures it out. And we've got a lot of cool things that happen on the farm to add to that carbon neutral designation that we have. So he's really focused. He's really, really passionate about it. It's not just like kind of a sales and marketing thing from their eyes. For me, as a kind of like the sales manager for Backsberg, it's great. I get to roll in it, but they live it. They really, really do live it day in and day out. And you can see from this photo, he's combed his hair for this photo. It's usually kind of standing up like a crazy Einstein style, and he's got his pink frame glasses. And what you can't see in this photo is that he's wearing shorts with polka dot socks that come up sort of halfway up his calves. It's his kind of standard attire.
Slightly eccentric. Cool.
Hey, Bryce. Maybe you're going to get to this in the presentation here, but one of the things that I really love about Backsberg is a lot of the social responsibility initiatives that Michael and Simon have taken on. I think one of them that stands out to me is that Freedom Road housing project.
Yeah, so it's interesting that the kind of tag on the Backsberg logo is sustainably farmed. And when you talk about sustainability with Simon or Michael Back, when you hear the word sustainability, you immediately think like environmental sustainability, but they will often talk about the three pillars of sustainability at Backsberg. So the first one obviously is environmental. The second one is business sustainability. I mean, Backsberg this year, I believe is 105 years old this year. So you need to be sustainable in business. And then like Nick just brought up now, your social sustainability. So during apartheid, Michael Back and his wife, Jill, hosted night classes when it was illegal to teach people of color in South Africa higher education. They would host night classes in the town just down the road from the Backsberg estate. They have a scholarship program whereby they sponsor tertiary education for students who are in need. It's kind of a word of mouth thing where people who have been through the program before will kind of let other people know, and if they need some financial support, they'll get in contact with the family. And there's usually no questions asked for the scholarship. The only requirement is you pass all your classes. If you don't pass, it gets taken away from you. But if you do, then you go through. And the combined total of education, I think now that they've sponsored, so tertiary, so this is after high school now, it's more than 100 years worth of study in tertiary education that they've provided for people in need. And then the big one, which Nick touched on now, the Freedom Road project, which happened, I want to say 1998. There's a big problem in South Africa when it comes to standard of living and how your wage and income translates into what you can afford. And one of the biggest issues that it comes down to is housing, where people who work kind of a low-end job as a vineyard laborer or a farm laborer, they can't afford to own their own house. So they get sponsored to stay in houses that are on the farm itself, be it a vineyard or other agricultural process. Now, if they want to leave their job, they want to go on to something new, or they're just, it's time to go, they leave their house. They don't have anywhere to stay. So the Freedom Road project was created by Backsberg and their laboring team at the time in conjunction with a UK retailer. Is it Asda? I think, I forget, it's irrelevant. They created this project where they made this wine where after hours, these guys would go and manage a vineyard, produce a wine, and it was sold with the sole intention of all profits coming from that to sponsor a portion of land on the Backsberg farm where title to houses was then granted to the laborers. So as you kind of drive down the road heading towards the winery, there was a portion of land that they carved out. They built 18 houses on it. The laborers themselves who were part of this project, they built their own places and established this kind of plot of land where 18 families were then able to move into their own homes and receive title to their housing. The name Freedom Road was taken off of Nelson Mandela's Long Walk to Freedom book. It was kind of an homage to that. And the first bottle that came off the bottling line was actually signed by Nelson Mandela and is at the estate now in a display case. And a number of those families who were part of that initiative have since left Backsberg and are now working other jobs and raising families in other industries, which Simon and Michael will tell you was the entire purpose of it, because it enabled them to step up from that kind of like vineyard laborer situation that they were stuck in to now move in to afford higher education, because they now had a house that they could leverage as capital to either take a loan or mortgage off. And it's great. It's a real success project in a country that is undoubtedly a third world country where higher education and housing is a problem.
Yeah, I mean, you can definitely tell when you're there that this is a major issue for the country. There are major shanty towns, and I don't know that I haven't been there in 7-8 years now, Bryce, but that looked more like a multi-generational problem more than a 7-year problem.
No, absolutely.
And so there's a continued work by the wine industry to bring in more education and economic diversity, and it's a great opportunity for the country. So we tasted the Pinotage earlier, and like I said, we're big fans around here, and the 2020 is fresh and in stock, and the importer just brought it in. We were probably one of the very first people to get it. I think we got it the day after it was in stock, so they knew we were waiting for it, right, Nick?
Yeah, I didn't get to taste that wine tonight because you cleaned me out of inventory. So, but I've got an order coming in here any day now.
Well, I was a little I can be a little bit of a bulldog like that. I wanted to have it all, so I did buy everything you had, but it wasn't that much. But it was enough that I didn't want any competition to have it. It was a great little window for me. So I'll have to talk to you about the next load, how much is coming in.
I'll jump in there. I noticed on the tasting note in the previous one with the rosé, it said 85% Pinotage and 15% other. I just want to clarify that's a mistake. We rectified that. There's no other. It's 100% Pinotage.
Got it. Yeah, we've got some little tweaks like that on our website all the time. Backsberg Estate cellars. So there are some wines that you buy fruit from growers, and then some you grow yourself, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the estate itself is, I need to convert to acres here now. We have about 180 acres to vine out of about 450 acres of total land. And interestingly enough, on this wine, we actually have no Shannon Blanc plantings on the Backsberg estate. So as you heard Simon say in the little chat earlier, they have a relationship with a winery, not a winery, a farmer in an area called Wellington, which is just a little north of Paarl, slightly cooler. And they've been working with this particular farmer for upwards of 15 years now. And we get the Shannon Blanc from him. Same producer every year. So the consistency is always the same. We know what to expect. We've got a great relationship with our winemaker, Alicia.
Cool. We're moving into our Pinotage now. And just a dynamic color. I'm going to pop mine open and get it in the glass. Taste it with you guys. Well, we'll go back into our video and work with Simon on that. There's just a couple other comments here about the first carbon neutral winery and some bullet points about that. And then some final comments looks like you're also continuing to improve your infrastructure, water resource management, and always an important part of running a good winery.
Yeah, so that was a major thing. I mentioned the drought where a lot of people really struggled with it, and there were some vineyards that actually died. There's actually a Shannon Blanc from a producer called Alheit Family Vineyards. They did a wine called Radio Lazarus, and that vineyard died during the drought. So no more wine coming from that at all because they couldn't irrigate it. It was a dry farm vineyard and there was no rain. So you see here, 2018 saw the completion of a major pipeline and pump installation. Backsberg also has one of the biggest blueberry operations in South Africa. So very, very high quality blueberries that get exported around the world. And you have these big tunnels that go over the nurseries to protect the blueberries. Now, when it rains, you've got all this water falling on these roofs that kind of just runs down and then goes into the mud and just is wasted. So what they did is they developed a sort of, and this is again, Michael Back, he developed sort of like a gutter system to catch this runoff water that we then pump up into the dam.
Wow, cool. Makes sense.
Ian, maybe we can get some of those blueberries. What do you think?
Yeah, you'd have to import those blueberries pretty fast.
Well, they ship them all over the world, right?
Oh, I'm sure.
They do go all over. I mean, it's the blueberry world is crazy. The farm manager at Backsberg, a guy by the name of Carl, super knowledgeable. I've never seen someone have the ability to talk about something so technical and boring, but actually keep you interested and like wanting to learn more about it. He's got a phenomenal ability to do this. But he'll talk about the kind of like the processes that they go and to make sure that everything, it's a really, really stringent protocol that you have to meet. So much so that these blueberries that you buy, when you get the package, they've got a tracing number. You can trace the origin of your blueberries back to wherever they come. So when you do go out and get yours, if they are high quality, you'll be able to see if they came from South Africa. And if they came from South Africa, there's really only one of two places they came from. So 50-50 chance it came from Backsberg.
Cool. And so you guys have some extensive recycling and waste management programs. So that's really cool too.
So yeah, so bees, obviously vital for agriculture on so many levels. And bee population is dwindling. So Michael Back again established a relationship with Stellenbosch University, which is, I went to Stellenbosch, so of course I'm going to tell you it's the leading university in the country. Set up a research project on queen bee hive management. So we have a number of hives situated all over the estate where I'm not going to pretend to know what they're doing, but they're monitoring the bees and developing some good research into it.
Cool. I'm gonna include this extensive PowerPoint in our follow-up email at the end, and let everybody can continue to read through. But some fantastic forward thinking by the estate. I will tell you that when I was visiting, I was actually invited to a wedding in Durban. So we went out into this game reserve for this wedding. My best friend Clay Moritzen, by the way, and he married a South African young lady. The game reserve was amazing, but on my day to depart, the winds had kicked up and we had some pretty strong winds. And we were supposed to be able to take basically a small plane to the airport, which is pretty good distance away. And I had already kind of extended my trip a little bit with my employer by telling them that I was having some hard time getting out of South Africa. Well, that day I actually was having some hard time getting out of South Africa. And so I was like, I really have to get out of here. And so we drove from this place because we couldn't fly to Durban Airport. And literally on the road to the airport, the trees were falling into the street and we had to like lift trees to move the car through. I mean, it was one of the most rigorous road trips to get to the airport, but I was in full sweat by the time we got to the airport, and I ran to the plane and I made it because the plane was delayed. But I had no way of knowing that back then. So back into Simon Back and our tasting of Pinotage.
Right, so we just finished our Shannon Blanc, and you know, Shannon is the official white wine of South Africa, and certainly other great varieties like Sauvignon Blanc and Chardonnay do very well in South Africa. And I'm sure there's quite a few other little plots of this and that. In the red wine category, there are a lot of different options in South Africa. They have a wonderful growing climate, much like we have here in California, great sunshine. I always kind of talk about South African wine as having 1 foot in the old world and 1 foot in the new world. Do you like that kind of?
Yeah, I mean, it's not too far wrong. You know, I think we strive for some of the kind of, you know, fruit and, you know, accessibility of the new world, but we like to think we still have some of the elegance and subtleties of the old world, so to say.
When you sell your wine, Simon, are you focused on most export markets, a few export markets? Where do you sell most of your wine?
Yeah, so we ship to about 25 different countries around the world. The US is very important to us. So Bryce helps me with all things the US, and then I do a fair amount of travel into Europe and Africa. We also sell in Asia. So yeah, like we're all over the show.
And from what you guys see worldwide, how is wine consumption doing, and are there markets to be concerned about?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, Europe is quite tough. I mean, you know, if I compare it to the US, you know, wine consumption in Europe is pretty flat, whereas I see in the US, for example, you know, wine consumption is definitely on the up. You know, if you go to Asia, there's a lot of interesting opportunities, but, you know, the market is still, you know, there's a lot of development that has to happen. So, you know, different markets, different cases, but for us, we're very excited about the US.
Pinotage is Pinot Noir and Cinsault crossed, right? Is it a crossing?
Yeah, correct.
And this was planted, and I'd love to hear your
Yes.
what's
I mean,
origin?
I'm just going to jump in here because I want everyone to know that Simon has been so anxious to tell the story. He's been like sending me instant messages over the last week. He's like, guys, it's 2021. I haven't told the story yet. I'm ready.
I'm sure there's a certain repeat and play, repeat. Bryce, tell us about Pinotage. What the hell is it, and why did it get started?
You saved me. You saved me.
Pulling away Simon from his joy. No, Pinotage, it's look, I'm very much in the camp of Pinotage. I love it. It's a uniquely South African grape. It was, as you mentioned, it was a cross between Pinot Noir and Cinsault. It was made back in 1925 by a professor at Stellenbosch University in the Western Cape of South Africa. Now, funnily enough, it's kind of grown in really small quantities all over the world. I mean, you've got some in California, you've got some in New Zealand. I think there's 1 or 2 guys playing with it in Europe. So people are giving it a shot. Because, I mean, if we're honest, it's a relatively young grape. Where it grows best hasn't been discovered. And like Shannon Blanc, it can be quite versatile. I mean, you've got guys making it in almost like a Beaujolais type style, all the way to a serious, like 5-year, 100% new oak bomb. So can be quite versatile. Where I think the Backsberg one falls into play is really, really great as a nice gateway into the variety. It's kind of medium bodied, it's fruit forward, it's light. Very, very food friendly for your lighter style dishes, or for your white meats or your lighter red meats. You can also, I think where it can do really well sometimes is you bang it in the fridge for about 30 minutes and then put it with sushi. You'll be surprised at what that does.
That's great. Yeah, no, I agree. I just wonder if the psychology behind the grape is that in the way that they made it, is I really thought, I'm kind of a little bit of a wine history buff, and I think that the primary market for South African wine at the moment that South Africa kind of came to rise was for the European market. It couldn't, make enough to supply their own population, so they went to South Africa for value, and but the wines were too fruit oriented, and so they created this Pinotage and then oxidized the hell out of it in the winemaking process and created something that tastes like it was from Europe. And now I see, more, modern winemaking addressing the potential of this grape variety. Instead of trying to knock it down, you're embracing its character, its chemistry, and its color, and its complexity. And it really makes a really unique statement. I mean, it's kind of on its own in some areas. It's not really, I definitely know that it leans into its Rhone characteristic with the Cinsault, and yet there's a softness and a fleshiness of Pinot Noir, and then the color of the Rhone and the texture of the Pinot Noir, and so it's kind of just like South Africa. It's got 1 foot in the old world, 1 foot in the new. Pinotage kind of has 1 foot in multiple different categories, and it's just a really fun option that I don't think is thought of enough. But here we are talking about it and tasting a wine that really is a great value proposition for our US dollar and our US red wine consumption, where red wine is going to outsell white wine like 3-1 in America. So I really think that Pinotage should explode upward in popularity, especially at this moment without tariffs, this moment where people are looking for value, and this moment. And it also helps South Africa. So there's a lot of pointers, bullet points to really help Pinotage kind of go to the upside. I don't think I said anything controversial there, but you guys are.
You kept it very diplomatic.
It's cool. So, do you guys make different styles of Pinotage?
So we just do the one style, and as Bryce said, like it's kind of more on the light to medium body style, and that for us like works well, and is a good gateway Pinotage, as Bryce mentioned as well.
It's great. And
we also have the Kosher Pinotage.
Oh, sorry. Let me not forget. We also do the Kosher variety. Yeah.
Ah, very good. I do not carry the Kosher, but I could get it if you need it, anybody. What do you think is the future for South Africa with the situation? You guys got any discussions about how you're going to kind of, attack the situation? What is your 5-point plan, Simon?
You're talking about this lockdown, or? Yeah, I mean, I don't have a great plan about not being able to sell wine, but yeah, I think, fortunately, it will pass, and, we will get back into it. So, I think it's just hold tight for a little bit. We obviously focusing hard on exports whilst we can't, sell domestically. But it will pass, vaccines will come, the sun will rise, and we will get through this. So for me, it's keeping focus and trying to deliver great wines to our customers, and that's the strategy.
If people want to come visit you, is it a good place to send tourists?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the winelands here in South Africa, you can't beat it, really.
You fly to.
Yeah, there's actually, that's some good news, is that as of recently, there's actually a direct flight out of, I want to say it's Newark. Bryce, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a direct flight out of Newark to Cape Town. So it's quite a long journey. So I would definitely recommend some strong sleeping pills and maybe a glass of wine for the journey. But once you get here, you won't be disappointed.
Yeah,
taken that. I did the flight. I went through Cape Town and through Joburg to Cape Town, and I actually kind of love the long flight. It's like for someone who's a workaholic, it's the one moment where I'm forced to read and watch movies and relax. So I kind of enjoy the time in the air. And I think South Africa is an amazing place to visit. That's where your dollar really kicks in. Stay in some wonderful countryside bed and breakfasts and have some great meals and eat some traditional meat pies and other things that are South African. You guys eat meat pies down there still, or was that Australia?
There are some meat pies. I'm not sure if I would call it distinctly South African, but we've got some good pies.
There's all kinds of little touches that are South African that make it a really fun food adventure down there. But I want to thank you guys for being on the Zoom. We really love to make this personal, and you guys have done a great job of helping us feel like we're talking to a source there and getting it straight from you and hearing about the struggles. And we want to support, we want to help, and we want to spread good information. So thank you for spreading good wine, and we're here to help, and we hope to see you here in California when the timing is right.
Yeah, no, I mean, from my side, just thanks for the support for, I guess, the category as a whole, South African wine, and obviously for Backsberg in particular. And yeah, just keep spreading the love and shouting good things about South African wine.
Cool. Bryce, thank you for your time. We'll see you live tonight.
Exactly.
And there we go. Bryce, thank you very much, buddy. Got you now.
Only a pleasure. It's great to be here. I always love chatting about the wines. It's actually not often that I get to drink the wines with the tasting. Like I said, I polished off the rosé pretty quickly when it arrived here. I wanted to try it, but I do have the Pinotage with me now. I'm trying it for the first time, the 18 vintage, which I believe is the same you guys have.
Yep. And
it's cool. The first thing that's come to me here on this one that I haven't seen on prior vintages is the acidity. I mean, on the side of your tongue, the way it's hitting, for me, it's like it's begging for food. And I haven't seen that on prior vintages before, which I think is really, really cool. I like that. South Africa, it's generally a warmer climate, so we get sugar, we get ripeness in the fruit really easily. Sometimes acid is a little bit harder to come by, so that's a good one.
Yeah, it's drinking really nicely. Really balanced, and it's got some unique features to it. If some Rhone region wines would characteristically be described as slightly smoky, you certainly can play in that category right there. You got a whole family of bacon products, pork and ham and sausage and bacon all in that glass. Maybe a little chocolate. And some really nice fruits, raspberry, some, you can go crazy, rhubarb, there's all kinds of fun fruit angles that you can pick up on. Jim, what are you smelling?
Thought initially very, very old world. So I was getting all that earth. Threw some notes out there, leather and tobacco, really, really old world. And after about 20 minutes of being open, the fruit starts coming through to me. I do get the strawberry rhubarb on the nose more than I get it on the palate. Mm-hmm. But dark cherry. But Bryce brought it up. I think the acidity is really, it helps the entire wine, just balances it out perfectly.
Yeah, the other thing I'm enjoying is the tannic structure on it. This wine is aged in neutral barrels, so I mean nothing younger than third fill. So the tannic structure that I'm getting on this, I have to assume is fruit tannin. So again, 2018 was kind of the middle of that drought season I was mentioning earlier. So a lot of stress on the vines. So probably some pretty thick skins to help and protect. And in the cellar, management of Pinotage, you'll hear winemakers sometimes refer to it as a bit of a dirty grape. It's kind of difficult to work with. You've got to keep an eye on it. And Alicia, the Backsberg winemaker, she talks pretty frequently about how it's interesting because you'll get it in, you'll pick it ripe at 24 bricks, comes into the cellar, and it's relatively slow start to ferment. You'll get about 3 days where it kind of goes down from 24 to about 19, but then from 19 down to 7 bricks, it's like 2 days, super quick. So it's continuous pump overs in the cellar. It's just kind of mixing it through the skins, getting that extraction coming through. And it's managing that so that it's not too heavily extracted where you get those kind of heavy burnt smoked aromas that Ian was kind of touching on that can sometimes be pulled through. Careful management in the cellar is what results in a good Pinotage. And yeah, 10, 15 years ago, there wasn't some great stuff on the market, but now there's lots and all across the board in terms of style.
Good winter pot roast with some horseradish and different stewed vegetables would go really good with this wine.
Yeah. What I realized now when we were playing that again, Ian, is we didn't touch on, and I think it was Jim or David asked about some of the history behind Pinotage. The reason behind the cross, why it was created initially was, and I apologize for my French here if anyone doesn't take kindly to it, but it's a cross between the princess and the bastard. The idea was to take the hardiness and readiness of Cinsault, it grows really, really easily in South Africa, to take that kind of abundance and then to take the finesse and elegance from Pinot Noir. So this was the concept initially when creating it, was to get that elegance and finesse in a grape that would grow very readily and very easily and be easy to manage, because Pinot Noir, a very finicky grape. Jim, you're making some Pinot Noir, I'm sure you can attest to this. It's tough to work with, it's difficult to work with. Growing conditions are interesting, to say the least. So they wanted to combine that. And the first kind of stuff that hit the international waters didn't really reflect that, but now the 2000s, you definitely find a lot of that happening.
Mm-hmm. Cool. We also talked a little bit about some Pinotage starting to appear in other countries, including here in California. There's a couple growers up in Sonoma, Napa, Paso, just small little plots, but there's South Africans that are living here and they want to make a little Pinotage and have a little relationship with the home country. So it's definitely a grape to continue to think about and find some unique wines that are made from it. And this is just a really beautiful, good value. And I think it really performs well. It always did. And I'm really happy to revisit it here and see how it's just kind of pumping along and really tasting great. Nick, how's the supply on this 18?
Oh, real good. I got plenty of that in stock, and always keeping that one on order, as I like to put it with Bryce, because that's a good seller for us. This Pinotage is one of my favorite wines that we carry. I just love how interesting it is, and so we have that in good supply.
Cool. Well, Bryce, I'll just tell you too, Nick has been an absolute warrior doing things with us for the last several years and really always giving it his all. And he didn't have to be on the Zoom tonight. He just wanted to. And that's super cool, Nick. Thanks so much.
Thank you. And thank you for giving us a platform for these wines and for your support.
Pleasure. And, we will continue to try to add some more wines to our website from South Africa. And I won't mix messages here. I'll just tell you that I want to make sure my least offensive page is not up on the website when I flip over here. But I have a number of good wines available from South Africa, and I'm always looking to see what we can add to improve the page. So if I sound like you were pretty well versed, Bryce, I'd love to get some ideas from you. When I visited, I honestly carry a lot of the brands that I visited when I went down there. I went to Betavavakten, had just an incredible experience. So I carried both the Beyond and the Sauvignon Blanc.
I carry the Rotz, Neil Ellis, the Secateurs, the Glenelly, and here's the brand that you mentioned earlier where the vineyard died, right? All Height. Not this particular vineyard, but one of his other vineyard sources.
Yeah, the Radio Lazarus was the one from All Height that died a few years back. Yeah, look, Ian, these are really, really great wines, guys. I'd say if you're looking to shop for some SA wines, jump on the site now and get some of these guys. I'll tell you a little bit about them. But you asked Simon earlier on the call about his 5-step plan to solve the problem. I keep it much simpler. I've got a 3-step solution for everyone on how you can support South African wine right now. Step 1, go out and buy a bottle of South African wine. So log on to Ian's site now and buy South African wine. Step 2, drink that bottle. And step 3, repeat. It's really easy to support South African wine right now. That's all you have to do.
Great job. Great job.
Yeah. No, look, these wines are great. Protea, Shannon Blanc, super easy drinking, very, very approachable. It's actually when I was a student at Stellenbosch University, that's kind of one of the first ones that I got I got my hands on. Really, really approachable. Buiten Verwachting, iconic estate in South Africa. Clever as well. You see the name on the label there, it says Baten. They realized that Americans are not going to be able to pronounce Buiten Verwachting, so they just call themselves Baten in the US. Really, really cool climate, nice, lovely, fresh, bright mineral wines. Rotz, lovely Shannon Blanc, lovely Cabernet Franc. I mean, he's the king of Cab Franc in South Africa, undoubtedly, and his Shannon is phenomenal too. I think David was asking about some like longevity on Shannon Blancs. I would say Rotz's higher end stuff would probably be one of the ones that could do it if you wanted to. And then this producer Backsberg in the middle here, they're Brut and Pinotage. I haven't heard much about them, but apparently they're good, so you should check them out.
Awesome. Well, everybody on the Zoom tonight will not only get a special discount on the Backsberg wines, but any of the wines from South Africa. So, and we would really appreciate the support, guys. And this Zoom was a long time coming, so thank you very much for being here and giving us your time. And does anybody have any questions for our guests before we say goodnight? Got a couple fun activities coming up, and you guys can interrupt me if you have any questions. But this Saturday, we're doing In-N-Out versus Shake Shack, and we've got 6 blind blends from the world that I'm really fun. They're really gonna be fun. We do the Saturday night tastings. They kind of break all the rules, and we've got a blend from Spain, from Corsica, from Portugal, from Argentina, from France, and from Tuscany, from Italy. And we're just going to mix them all up and see which one if you can peg which one's which. And they're all really good little value wines. We'll have those with our cheeseburgers, and we'll do the hard work. All you got to do is swing by, pick it up, or have us deliver it to you. That's for this Saturday night. And we love making these type of activities happen. And we've got 2 pickup locations, by the way, downtown LA and Marina del Rey. So we can do West Side or East Side if you're interested, or you can just do the wines. Maybe you're not a cheeseburger fan, or you're watching your January waistline, you just do wine only, because the wines are worth it. They're really, really a good little lineup. Next Wednesday, we're down in New Zealand with a really top brand called Astrolab. And the winemaker there, Simon Waghorn, he's just incredible. He took everyone's breath away at the Stars of Pinot Noir, showing us his Pinot. So we're gonna do a little Shannon. We're gonna do a little, which is kind of rare for New Zealand, but he makes a really cool Shannon. And we're gonna do his Sauv Blanc and his Pinot Noir. Wine, Cheese, and Chocolate on the 16th. Really pulling some incredible artisanal products together and making some really awesome wine pairings. That's what this class is all about, is showing off some really cool wines that maybe you wouldn't normally buy or know what to do with them. And so we have some really fun activities there. I want you to check out the Stars of California Wine. We've got 2 nights, 14 wineries. You can do both nights for $100, and that includes delivery. We do deliver the samples fresh, or you can do a bottle kit for each night.
and the wine lineup is really, really awesome. So click in and check out who we've got pouring. There's white wines, red wines, Paso, Napa, Santa Barbara, all over California. And the lineup just could not be better, to be honest. It's really, really a fun and diverse set of nights. And we're really going to talk shop. We'll have 7 winemakers on each of the Zooms. And that will be really, really fun, very stimulating. We finally got the menu from Chef because he was so busy for the holidays, and he apologizes, but he just got the menu to me. So we're going to have that up tomorrow. And the dinner's already up. We got the price. He just couldn't put the words or the wines together yet. So we're working on that, and we'll have it up tomorrow. But it is available for sale if you want to join us for an incredible feast. Chef Christopher Emmy, one of the best in the land, is going to be doing the food. And our special host that night on the wines is the son of Kermit Lynch, who runs Kermit Lynch, the importer. So that's going to be really cool because they are a Loire Valley specialist. Then we go to Willamette Valley for a night with someone who I love and adore, Jacques Lardier, 40-year winemaker for Louis Jadot, and his winemaker Guillaume Large. This is a Resonance winery in Willamette Valley, and they are Pinot Noir specialists, of course. But we're going to try both their single vineyard estate and their Willamette that evening, and hear how everything is going down up in Willamette.
I've been to Resonance and I can attest. Great wines.
Cool. So that's how we're going to go out in January. But look at this, Jim Fox, he's right here on February 10th. And the 6th, we're in Bordeaux. We're in Portugal on the 3rd. And then we've got the Valentine's holiday on the weekend of the 13th. And we're still filling out the February month. But we're going to do a blind Chardonnay event with my friend Chef Bob Blummer. And he's going to teach us about risotto. So if you want to do a really fun food and wine event, my friend Bob Blummer, the chef, is going to teach us a little bit about how to make a great risotto, and from his new cookbook, Flavor Bomb. So all those things are happening, and we still have Merchant of Wine, where we're now over 500 wines available on the website, all with free delivery in Los Angeles, and we've lowered our delivery cost to anyone in the state of California for $10. $10 now. Lauren down in San Diego, thank you so much. You helped us see the light getting it down there. And we now have buy 6, get 5% off, and buy 12, get 10% off. The 10% discount happens automatically anytime you buy the wine. If you want the 5% discount, just use the code SIXER on checkout. And that's how we're moving forward. And we've really been stocking the store with some bitchin' new wines. And I think you guys will really enjoy the shopping experience. We're putting a lot of time and energy into it. Shop by region, shop by grape varietal. And if you don't want to think about it at all, we still have the one-click boxes where with one click, you can just get a whole box of stuff that is really, really great. And we always stuff those with great value. I want to thank you.
Ian, when are we going to taste that DRC you just flashed up there?
Yeah, we're working on a DRC event. We're
really?
asking, he said 2029.
Book it now.
That's right. We're gonna put it up for sale very soon. No,
someone else saw that there. I was also taking a look on.
No, we have been known to do some DRC events, guys. We just did an event last November, November 2019, at 71 Above with Domaine Romanicanti. And then in February, we were at, right before shutdown, the craziest tasting of our entire existence. I remember this day very well because on my walker thing on my watch. I put in 21,000 steps serving that lunch. We did 14 vintages of Domaine Romanée-Conti, and at the restaurant in Malibu, I was so exhausted I could barely make it to the car. I had to bust my ass. It was so hard, but the pressure was on. It was a big day, and they had some problems, so I had to take over all of the service, not just part of it. So I had to step it up. But we will be publishing some really amazing tastings where there's all the rules, all the hesitations and rules are coming off. I know that we have to be careful when not everything can be super high end. We're trying to always keep value in mind, but sometimes we just got to live a little bit. So we're going to create some really exciting things that I can't really put dates or announce them yet, but they're going to be in the next 60 to 90 days. And we're always looking to blow minds. So stay tuned, come back and see us. And thank you guys for supporting South Africa tonight. We look forward to talking to everybody soon. Bryce, Nick, you're champions. And thank Simon for me. We'll talk soon, everybody.